Good day, this is Pedrozo, and the activity that we are about to present is about the HCP activity 1. So first, we will go to settings, and then we will set the network from NAT to internal network. So we will select internal network, then OK. So we will start up the PC or the server, and then we will wait for it to boot up. So next is we will control alt delete to log on the administrator account. Then we will input our password for the administrator, then log in. So the first one will be start, then administrative tools. Then we will select server manager. So we will click and select server manager and open it. So for the roles, we will click add roles. So for this one, the roles to be added is the DHCP server. So we will click add roles, and then click next, and then we will click the DHCP server, and then next, and then next. So next. So for this IP address, we will validate it, and it's valid, and then the next one is also valid. So we can click next. So in this one, we will select the wins is required, and then we will input the preferred Windows Server IP address. We will input the last usable IP address. So for the alternate Windows Server, it is not needed to be filled up. So I will erase this one and then click next. And then so here in the DHCP scopes, it is to be added male and female accounts, but in this video you can add now or you can add later. So we will add later the scopes for the male and female accounts. So for now we will click next because we can still add the scopes later. And then enable the HCP, and then next. So the preferred DNS server here, so we will just validate this one. So validate, and it's valid, so we can click next. So in this one, the radio button for use current credentials is needed. The user that is inputted here is needed to be the administrator, so you will not have errors or the next. So this is the confirmation for all the settings you've set, and then after checking it, you can now install the DHCP server. So we wait for the DHCP server to install. So the installation for the DHCP server is done. So next we will now create the scopes for the mail accounts. So we will now close this one. So close the server manager, then go to start, administrative tools, and now the DHCP here is present. So we will find and select DHCP. So under the name of the computer, so we will click the name of it, and then on the IPv4 we'll double click. So here you can add the male and female accounts for the scope. So right click IPv4 and then new scope, then next, and then input the name. The name would be the mail accounts, so we'll input mail accounts, and then we will click next. So we will now input here the IP address. So the start IP address is 10.0.0.1 and the end IP address is 10.63 10.0.1. So the end IP address is 10.0.0.150. Then the length is 10 based on the activity requirements. So we click next. Then input also here the start and the end IP address. Then we will click add. So we'll input our we will input another IP address. Then add, and now we can click next, and then for this one the list time would be 16 hours only, so 0 days and 16 hours, and then next. So yes, I want to configure these options now, then next. So we click next, and then for this one also click next. The IP address can be inputted now or it can be inputted later. So next, and then finish. So now we will input the IP addresses, so it is under the scope options. So we'll double click scope options, then under the DNS servers, click the DNS servers for the scope options. So here is where we will input the scope options. So we will check the 003 router, then input the IP address. After inputting, we'll click add. So apply, and then now we will go to 006 DNS servers, and then we will input the IP addresses, then add. So the IP address will be validated. So DNS is validating the DNS server. Then after the IP address is validated, we can input the next one, the 8.8.8, and then add, and then it will be validated. So the IP address is validated, and now we'll input the 8.8.4, 8.8.4.4, then add, and then it will also be validated. And then we will look for the number 44, or for number 44, the Windsor NBNS server. We will check that one, and then we will also input the IP address here. So we'll click add, and then apply. So we'll just check if the settings for the DNS is applied. So here we can identify that all the settings are now applied for the mail accounts. So that's it for the mail accounts. All the settings are applied. So for the female accounts, it will be tackled and demonstrated by Jerico Aguirre, and that's all. Thank you.